Right. Hey, Yasmin, how are you today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah, I'm in Sydney at the moment. It is a bit dreary, cold and rainy, but
Okay,
overall
but you're
really
not
good.
in lockdown, so you can't talk. I think you got it
Yeah,
better to us compared to down here in Melbourne. Sad
yeah,
times right now.
it is. It is. Hopefully it'll get better. And I think apparently everyone has to wear masks now when they go
Everyone's
out in
wearing
public.
masks. That's right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a new fashion thing. I ordered it like a boutique, like local made masks. So
Yeah,
this is the Melbourne fashion. This is the reason why we're the fashion capital because
that's
we've got our
right.
masks look so.
Entrepreneurship and adaptability at its
That's
finest.
right. Exactly.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad to have you on today. As speaking on my podcast, um, I believe you are also a 2020 New Colombo Plan scholar.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, as situation has unfolded, we haven't been able to go on our scholarship, unfortunately. But uh, that's not going to stop us from speaking about what we would have done or what plans we've had in the first place and what we've done in the past. So hopefully we can explore that a little bit today.
For sure.
Awesome. All right. And before we actually get into all of the new Colombo Plan stuff, I play this little game with all my guests at the start, and I just compile a lot of photos and memories from the past of like your travels or just things that you've done in the past, and I just asked you to explain the story or things that weren't apparent when people see this photo. So let me just load up that right now.
Yeah, awesome.
Can you see my screen?
I sure can.
Okay, awesome. All right. So I believe your first picture is you on a newspaper article.
Oh, this makes me laugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
This photo, oh, look at the little first year me. Look at me posing with my. This was probably the first ever news article I was part of. Well, before then, I actually used to be a busker. Would you believe it? When I was 8 years old, and that got a
Wow.
little bit of news articles when I was very young. But this, like from uni, this is probably my first ever kind of media
Hmm.
piece I ever did, and it was right after I did Victorian Youth Parliament. And that was when,
Ah.
essentially, what that is for people that don't know, it's like a simulation of Parliament effectively for young people.
Hmm.
And it was an incredible experience. And I was fortunate to win Best Speaker. And from that, this newspaper reached out to me, and ABC reached out to me, and it was kind of the first ever time I had a very small media platform to speak about the role
Hmm.
of young people in politics. And since then, I've had this amazing journey of that. This has really been a core message. But at the time, I was very much still like a little baby. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to say, but I did know that the role of young people was important and powerful. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's what led to this article. But it makes me smile looking at it. And look, it's got the same portrait in the background. Do you see the
Ah,
painting in
yes.
the back of me?
Yes.
So not much has changed, I guess.
Yeah. And did this sort of event sort of spark about like why you wanted to be like a speaker as well and moving on to what you wanted to do in the future?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was something that I always felt inside, but
Hmm.
I guess to be given a platform to some extent, I'd say less so this article, but more actually ABC,
Hmm.
because from there it led to another ABC interview and work, and then there's been this whole kind of amazing journey with them in terms of speaking on the drama and Q&A and things. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely a starting point, and I think actually it was more like youth parliament was the starting point because it just felt right when I was
Hmm.
doing that, and to talk about those issues on that kind of, I don't know, in parliament, it felt like almost like in my soul that this was kind of where I wanted to be. So that really started my whole passion about the role of young people and creating change in that certain space.
Fantastic. It might reminds me a lot about Model UN, but I guess this is more more niche and more like just regarding Parliament. Then I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think model UN is one thing. Well, funnily enough, I think I've only ever done one MUN, and they're cool. But I think what was cool about Youth Parliament is that every young person got to talk about what they were passionate about. And I
Hmm.
remember even in Youth Parliament, there was the first deaf team that participated, and it was such a privilege to hear what they wanted to see change. Their focus was on accessible public transport,
Hmm.
and just things that I never had to think about that they had that was a concern for them. So I think that was the biggest privilege to kind of hear from young people that wouldn't often be heard,
Hmm.
and they had so many amazing ideas. So it was really cool.
Ah, that's amazing. Keen to see your other pictures. Let's see what's the next one. Ah.
Yes. So this one was up in Canberra when I had just, I think was my first year at ANU,
Hmm.
and it was the ACT Women's Awards, and I was fortunate to be a grand finalist for Young Woman of the Year. And it's funny because I think that year was actually a really tough year in terms of finding my own path. So I had just come to Canberra, and coming from a low income background, it was, you know, self-funded, and a very difficult transition period to live by yourself,
Yeah.
and to have to, you know, think about all these financial considerations. And for a while I thought, have I made the right choice, you know, going to ANU, going up to Canberra.
Mm.
And I think for the first, half of the year I was really doubtful. And then Q&A happened. And as we'll talk about maybe later, you know, I went to APEC in Papua New Guinea, and all this amazing kind of stuff happened in this time that reaffirmed to me that I was in the right place, and I was doing the right thing. So I think that award is lovely because it was a lot of backstory to that, and a lot of self-doubt, but perseverance to kind of lead me to that place. And I'm really grateful as well that they even have those kinds of awards, because it's so important that we can recognise young women and their work. And there are so many amazing young women in Canberra and Australia. So
Definitely. I think the award is always a great achievement, or something at the end to just show recognition, but the journey that led up to it is a lot much more, in sense, rewarding, and something that you learn more from. It's not just simply the award itself.
yeah, that's what I found. I found that awards are fantastic in, I guess, providing legitimacy to your message, but there is so much that has gone on behind the scenes, and so much formative good and bad experiences that have led me to that path and to receive that award. But it was a cool experience.
It feels like a long time, but it was just last year.
I know, it feels like, oh, well, then I think with this pandemic, it just feels like, I mean, look at this, we're not even social distancing. This is like a crazy image. I'm like, wow, we're like 1.5 meters apart.
That's right.
Like, so long ago. But yeah, that happened.
Awesome. And your next one is everyone from the New Colombo Plan Scholarship.
All of the ANUers,
Yeah.
So this was my New Colombo Plan Awards ceremony, and a really I think important experience, because for me New Colombo means something more than just the exchange, because as an Asian Australian, the feeling of, I guess, diaspora or cultural links is really strong and embedded. So it was cool because, you know, even here you can see like three of us are Asian Australian, and the rest are, you know, going to Asia. And I think it's kind of a cool cross-cultural exchange even within that group of our experiences, and how we view Asia and international relations, and what diplomacy should actually mean. But yeah, I love that experience. And since then, I've loved keeping in touch with people from NCP, and I'm really excited to eventually go on the NCP when this comes down.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a nice little cherry on top, because I guess I've always thought about the scholarship even from first year, and to actually be there was pretty surreal.
It was surreal, just being in the Great Hall, and
It was,
just seeing everyone there.
yeah,
Good times. The next picture, are you on Q&A? This was the recent one, wasn't it?
Yeah, you can tell I'm like getting animated.
Yeah.
So this was Q&A, which happened, I think, maybe a little over a month ago. And it was the second time I was on Q&A. And, you know, when I got told that I was asked to be on Q&A, I was midway through doing my makeup, and I just picked up this like random number. And anyway, we started my Q&A, and I'm going like, oh my God, like, you know, halfway through my makeup, like, it was crazy.
Lipstick's just smudging everywhere. What?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it wasn't that bad, but and what was, I think I was in such shock, because the first time I was on Q&A was 2018, and I just turned 20, and it was just the most insane experience, because I was like, wait, you want to hear from me? And after I'd done that experience, and I was so nervous and blah blah blah, I look back on the clips, I can't even watch them, it's so embarrassing. So to get asked again was totally surreal. And this time I was like, you know what, because last time I think I didn't realize you could challenge and you could call out politicians if I disagreed with them. But this time I did. So my philosophy, you know, with that is, if not me, who? Or I guess thinking about who would I want to see as young Yasmin turning on the TV. And, you know, the reason why I think I took on kind of a stronger approach this time is because there are so many young women that are frustrated with the state of politics today, that are disillusioned, that don't see themselves represented. So to be able to call that out, it's not just me calling it out, it's me calling it out on behalf of so many others. So it was it was an amazing experience, and I think I really felt that responsibility, especially. So yeah.
Was there a big difference coming on the first time compared to the second time? Obviously, you're a lot more mature, educated with your university experience. Was there anything you felt different compared to the first time that you were on?
Yeah, I think I felt a lot more self-assurance that there is still a reason that I'm on this panel. I'm not just a random person. I'm a young person with something to say. And since then, you know, especially with COVID, and funnily enough, there's this clip of me calling out a politician about the lack of gendered response to COVID. And a lot of that was because I'd done a feminist law class and I had actually studied it. And I was pulling out what I had learned from university and actively applying it, which is funny because the government had proposed, you know, cutting arts programs, but I was actually using what I'd learned to call them out. So yeah, I think I came in saying, you know, you might see me as a young person, but I'm absolutely not going to take this for granted. And if I see something that's wrong, I will say it. And that's exactly what I did. And I was less apologetic. I think last time I was trying to kind of flip between both sides and not appear too strong and kind of sit in the middle. But I think especially this year, I've learned that there is so much power in speaking out and not trying to be totally meek and mild. And it was also having, you know, amazing feminists behind me. I'd recently spoken about the stuff that I spoke about around feminism with a feminist scholar called Cynthia Enloe, who's an 81-year-old feminist living in the US. And she's been unapologetic in the way she talks about feminism. And I think it's those kinds of inspirations that really drive me to continue and to forge on, even though it could be intimidating. So it felt a lot more, I guess I felt a lot more self-assured this time that there is a reason why, you know, I'm speaking about this stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, well, I'm sure we're going to be speaking about that later on, but yeah, it's just great to hear from you about that.
Yeah.
And the next final picture is this one.
So this was me in around December in Teotihuacan, the Teotihuacan pyramids in Mexico. And I had been doing a summer internship with Austrade, and it was for about 2 months. And it was the first time I had lived overseas for that long, and especially in a place like Mexico where I couldn't really speak much of the language. I remember like the first time I got in the Uber and he started talking in Spanish and I was going, I don't even know. No. I was like, no hablo español, like, no, like, I don't know, like, I'm really sorry. So it was, I think, an amazing experience, but also one that definitely pushed me far out of my comfort zone. And also in a really surprisingly good way as well. There's so much about Mexico that I thought was amazing. Like, I lived in such a beautiful place with so much nature and so much greenery. And the people in Mexico are probably the nicest group of people I've ever met in my life. Like, they never judged me about my poor Spanish. They were so incredibly kind, and they loved dancing and music and spending time with friends and all the important things of life. So I think that was nice because it kind of helped me reset what was also just like nice about life. And I could walk down the streets of where I lived and, you know, see people just spending time with one another and appreciating each other. So it was a cool experience in that sense, even above the internship. And that was why Teotihuacan was cool. I got to see the ancient, you know, pyramids and understand Mexican culture. And I think Mexico in all of the world has one of the highest rates of museums per square, I don't know, something like that. It's just that they have so many museums. They're so incredibly proud of their history, and they love visiting museums and learning about their own culture. And so it was really cool to understand more of that. And I guess in a way that Australia still has a long way to go in terms of celebrating our history, especially around Indigenous Australians. It was cool to see the pyramids here.
Definitely. Wow. It was only about 7 months ago that you were there as well. And since the borders closed, and well, No, it's interesting to hear you say that because do you feel like living in Australia and growing up in Australia, like there's just a big multitude of cultures and the way we live is just so blended. But when you go to, let's say, another country where it's a lot more homogenized and you feel like there's such a distinct and stark contrasts in how they live. Do you feel is that sometimes challenging or is that something just so refreshing to see?
Well, in a way, I feel like even where I grew up in Australia was less blended,
Mm,
because I grew up in a rural area in Victoria, and it was me and another girl that were the most kind of, the people of color in my grade at the time, and this was in
mm,
primary school. So I think now living in Melbourne, of course, it's very different. It looks a lot different to where I was growing up.
yeah.
But I think what was interesting about Mexico is that certainly I think there was less of that, and I think if someone was white walking down the street, they would get stares. I think actually I kind of blended in for the first time because I could kind of pass. Like I looked a little bit like somewhat similar to the locals.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what was great about Mexico is that at least from what I saw, there was a lot of tolerance and open-mindedness and willingness to learn about other countries. I think Mexico even has a really good relationship with Japan, which was something that I didn't realize, a long historical relationship actually.
Wow.
So certainly yeah, a different kind of experience, but I think also relatively superficial considering I hadn't lived there for a very long time. So this
Yeah.
is only what I saw in my place of work and around me, but very, very welcoming and open-minded people at the same time. So that was, yeah, it was interesting.
Mm. Yeah, it's definitely not some like a country that's always on top of the minds of Australia, because I guess we're so far away compared to, let's say, if you lived in the US, you would go to Mexico just back and forth.
Exactly.
But definitely, yeah.
Well, that was what was interesting because I was interning in the Australian Embassy,
Mm,
and it was really cool to see the cross cultures. I remember we did a Christmas party at the ambassador's house, and we played like Secret Santa and like Pass the Parcel and kind of like Australian conventional stuff. But then we also did like a Mexican Christmas song, and it was kind of like replicating. It was like I think it was like a Christian kind of tradition, but it's become like a wider
yeah.
Christian tradition more broadly, and that was really nice. Like you'd see kids that were speaking like Spanglish, like they were speaking Spanish and English, and like just like people like Australians and Mexicans, and just all kind of having fun together. So
Mm,
despite us being so far away, I always thought there's a lot of commonality actually between
mm.
Australia and Mexico, because Mexico, like I said, they love to socialize and have fun and kind
Yeah.
of enjoy life, and I think that's what Australians like to do as well. So that was lovely.
Definitely something we can bond over very easily.
Well, yeah, I think Australians can take it a bit too far. I think Mexicans just like the leisure part, but
Yeah,
yeah, there's definitely similarities.
that's right. Well, we can like speak about our international experiences all day because there's just so much to learn and so much that we enjoyed. But obviously, as New Colombo Plan scholars, we can't go at the moment. But that's not going to stop us from speaking about it. What was your previous plan of actually before all of this happened to go overseas and like what were you intending to do on your program?
Yeah, well, originally I was meant to be going in semester one to Hong Kong, but actually back in December with the protests,
Mm,
it was a little bit. It just wasn't. It was looking pretty like that wasn't going to happen.
yeah.
So instead, what I changed to was doing Singapore in semester two. And the
Mm,
reason why I did that is because I'm half Singaporean originally,
mm,
but I've only probably spent like the most 2 weeks in terms of actually going on holidays and visiting my relatives. So what I thought would be really cool is to go to Singapore to learn Malay, which is my, being half Malay Singaporean,
mhm,
to learn the language, and then to kind of get in touch with, I guess, my roots there. And the point of that is that if I go and work in the future, maybe I could live in Singapore and use my linkages between
mm,
Australia and Singapore to, whether it be business or diplomacy or something like that. So
yeah.
that was originally the aim. And yeah, I think in terms of internships, I was hoping possibly a consulting firm. And then I think what else? I think, yeah, possibly a consulting firm to just kind of get an idea of working in that space. But I think now looking back and the way that I've evolved in terms of my thinking, I think
Mm,
I'd love to work in maybe like a feminist legal organization and to kind of explore what feminism means in another context apart from Australia. I think that would be really fascinating because I
mm,
think feminism means different things depending on where you come from and what kind of, you know, rights need to be advanced, whether it be reproductive and sexual health, or it will be participation in the economy. Or forced marriages. There's so many different realms.
Yeah.
So I think now, if I was to recraft it, that would probably be a space I'd love to explore. I think that'd be so fascinating.
Definitely. And Singapore is definitely a popular country to come go to for the exchange portion. And but what made you actually want to do consulting in the first place? And obviously the leap now changing to I guess more feminist issues and that sort of direction is a little bit more apparent to me. But what made you want to start or want to do consulting in the first place?
Well, I think the reason going into it was probably more practical than anything. I think it's something that young people can often grapple with, and something that I certainly have, is to find where exactly we want to be working in the future. And for me, I had effectively ruled out law and public service because the way that I work is very much fast-paced, collaborative. How can we throw in all the different ideas and mix it together and come up with something that we can all broadly agree on? And that was, I think, the appeal of consulting, in that it was still corporate, but you are still problem solving with every single issue that's coming your way. You're still strategizing. You're still being dynamic in the way that you're thinking, and you're thinking broadly and innovatively.
Yeah.
At least that's where I was kind of coming from. But I think what I've realized in terms of now how I view my career is that I was viewing that as a way to kind of build the tools that I would need to possibly go into politics or that kind of space. But I guess I've reframed my thinking, because I think as much as that is important, it's also important to find kind of something that speaks to your sole purpose and what really resonates with you. So I'm trying, I guess, going into it now, I'm trying to kind of find that sweet spot between building skills and also being in a place that is helping you, I guess, inside, like on a soul level, to kind of to learn and to grow in that respect. So the space that I've been looking at increasingly is actually think tanks that are focused on futuristic policies for government. So broadly conceptualizing, what do governments need to do in the future to prepare for AI, climate change, health, education, and thinking far more into the future. And I think that's probably a space I'd like to kind of dip my toe into, but that's kind of to be continued. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think so. That was the thought around consulting, but I think my ideas have kind of evolved since then.
Nothing wrong with that. Actually, it's definitely encouraged. And from what I'm just hearing is that you really do appreciate the collaborative, innovative, and fast-paced environment. And you are picking in an industry that suited that mindset.
Exactly.
Perhaps now you're bringing the tools or that mindset into the industry to actually change it from within, rather than hoping for the industry to, I guess, also be along the lines or align with what you value. So I think that's actually quite a very bold and very interesting take on things. You're now taking the problem solving aspects of consulting into the public sector, or the social issues sort of side of things.
That's right. And I think this is the thing with young people. Like, I think it's so easy to get advice from so many different people about what they did and say this is the best course of action. But what I realized through my experience is that the reason I built this platform, the reason I was on Q&A, et cetera, is because it was my thoughts. It was not what someone else told me to think and what to believe. So I think doing right, and also, I guess, not only that, but understanding your strengths is so vitally important. And when I think about my strengths, it is what you just said, the kind of like problem solving, broader picture, taking the kind of complexity and coming together and seeing what it all means, kind of unpacking that.
Yeah.
And I think that awareness is really important, because when we think of success, it's so easy to get pulled into very conventional, like if I wanted conventional success, I could go and get a clerkship at a prestigious law firm. That would be great.
For a legal student.
For a legal student.
Yeah.
But certainly when I think about my journey, I don't think that would be best suited to my path and the kind of impact I want to create. So I always say to young people, to understand leadership, you need to understand yourself, and you need to understand your experiences and what that means to you. And if that means going into a clerkship, go ahead, but understand the reasons why you're doing it. And I think that is the key to creating wider impact above yourself. So that's certainly something I've been reflecting on in isolation, and something that I kind of I'm just working through every single day, and it's interesting the way that, you know, the way I think about it, but it's a good kind of interesting.